Hello there, everybody. Ooh, sorry. Oh, I'm not very good with microphones. Welcome to our little, Marie-Nathalie and I are going to just have a little conversation about our process of creating this show for the next half hour or so. I'm Katherine Hill. I'm the director of the musical part of this evening, and I've been in the Consort for quite a few years. And I'm thrilled to introduce to you Marie-Nathalie Lacoursière. Many of you will know her from other fabulous work she's done in Toronto. And we are so lucky and so delighted to have her back. We did a
Because I have a lot of costumes.
That's it. So the group, now that we're in our artistic associate model where we're deciding things all together, it was more than a year ago, I guess, and we were all talking about the last time Marie-Nathalie had done a show with us, which was 2007?
Yes, I think I wrote in the program 10 years, but actually it's 14 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Is it possible?
No.
No?
No. And we're exactly the same.
Yeah.
We're exactly the same. We have not aged. And so we were all in agreement that we would love to do something again, and so this just started.
Yes. And it's rare to do those kinds of programs here, this period, the Renaissance period, with the Commedia dell'arte particularly. So it's a joy for me too.
Oh, we're so glad you're free. And you're going, after this, you're going on the road down to the Boston Early Music Festival.
Yes, I'll be choreographing their next opera, Orlando Furioso. So I'll be in Boston, but before that, I'm staging a Rossini.
What? For
the Atelier Lyrique of the Opera of Montreal, La Scala di Setta. Yes, sometimes I jump the fence. It happens that I not only do period things, but actually Rossini's period in a sense as well, and so, yeah.
Oh yeah, Corey, one of our singers, was talking about an opera that Rossini wrote that has something in common with some of the things we're doing tonight, just in terms of its whimsy and...
Yes, there's a lot of opening doors, people listening to each other, and yes, it's comical, yeah, most of them.
And what's the composer of the opera in Boston? It's Orlando Furioso?
Stephanie.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
right,
exactly. So it's the first time it's done in America. I'm not even sure if they've done it in Europe in a full staging. I think it's a premiere. Yeah.
And Marie-Nathalie, why don't you tell us your colleagues that you've brought into the project so that we know who they are?
Yes, so when Katherine asked me for the project, I said, okay, how many people can I have? Okay, let's find people that can do dancing, that know about the historical dancing and can act in Commedia dell'arte. So I did another show 3 years ago in France that was called La Veuve Belle, and there was some Commedia dell'arte, and I've worked with dancers in France, and especially with Pierre-François Dolé that you will see tonight. And we were doing Harlequin and Harlequin, and we were the pair of Harlequin. Harlequin is really doing a great Harlequin. And it's fun because usually I do Harlequin often. I've done this at the Opera of Nice, I've done it in Boston, and this time I said, no, I'm going to do something else, and you're the great Harlequin, you will do a Harlequin this time. So Pierre-François has his own company in France, Fantaisie Baroque, and he does all kinds of things, and he's a great actor. And then I've worked with my partner in Les Jardins Chorégraphiques that you've seen probably in other production in Toronto, Stéphanie Brochard. She's a dancer that has been working with me for many years. And she did study in France with Lecoq. She did the Lecoq school. So very physical theater. And she's done some Commedia dell'arte with me before. Because there's a technique in Commedia dell'arte. There's you don't play, put your mask and you just play. Because you have the mask, there's a certain way, certain rhythms, and some masks are better on the side, the one who has a long nose, or nose like this, and some are more front mask, like Harlequin, for instance, don't have a very long nose, so is less good on the side. Not that he cannot go like this, but so anyway, so there's a work there that has to be done. So I knew those people, and they were the perfect people for this project.
Now that we've had a wonderful week working with all three of them, I totally agree. It's just been absolutely amazing. And the character you're playing a lot tonight is Pantalone. Can you tell us, because of course in Commedia dell'arte, as some of you will know, there are certain types. So there's the aged doctor who's bumbling around and he thinks he knows a lot, and there's the Spanish captain, but then there's this Pantalone. And who is Pantalone?
Yeah, the Pantalone and the doctor are usually the fathers. Often they have daughters, and they're a little bit higher. They're not at the top of the hierarchy, but they're not at the bottom like Harlequin would be, and Pulcinella and other characters. So Pantalone, he's probably only 40-something, but he's an old character. Somehow, at the period, 40 was being very old. So and he thinks he still have life in himself, and he does actually. And so he often wants to marry or court people. So that's one of the scenes that you're going to see. And he likes his money. I think he's in love with his money as well. He takes care of it. And I mean, there's many ways of doing Pantalone. So that's what is fun with the Commedia dell'arte. I've decided this time, because I have a Pantalone mask that I've worked before, and this time I decided to work with Stephanie, a mask that her mother made herself. Her mother and her father did Commedia dell'arte. And she brought the mask, and I just put it, and I said, okay, I'm going to do the show with this mask. It's very special, and it's her mother who did the mask of Pantalone.
I did not know that. Yes. That's absolutely. I'm sure that's very much like in the 16th century. I'm sure these Commedia dell'arte troupes, they made their clothes, they made their masks, and they did everything together, I'm sure.
They did, yes, they did everything. They get paid, not much sometimes, but they did. And so everybody was doing, and women were on stage, and it was almost the first time that women could go on stage and perform. Usually they were not masks, the women, because they were too beautiful, so they didn't need a mask. But the character, you know, the Colombina didn't have necessarily a mask, or l'amoureux et l'amoureuse, the two lovers, the guy, l'amoureux and l'amoureuse, didn't have mask either. But we like to play with masks, and we like to play male characters, or yes, everything is fluid these days.
It's true. And so these Commedia troupes in the past, in the 16th, and is it in the early 16th century that Commedia
Yes, there was kind of a revival. Even in the 15th century, there was some, but yes. So they would be traveling and playing outside at fairs, or even sometimes more in the different castles, because the nobility liked Commedia dell'arte as well. So sometimes they were in or out, depending. Yeah, at fairs, of course, and usually they would play one character. They would develop and play one character, and they would almost all their life. They would say, okay, I'm a Harlequin, I would play one Harlequin. Now we try all the different characters. But it's interesting how some characters really suits you well, and others are like, you're trying to get into it and it doesn't. And in a sense, they represent a bit the archetypes of society who we are. So I don't know if my Pantalone is close to me, but anyway.
I have to tell you, I've seen her doing her Pantalone many times now in rehearsal, and I'm still going to be back there laughing and crying, because there's something about Commedia, even though the characters, many of them are absolutely ridiculous, there's something that still touches you because you think, oh, but I have felt that way, oh, that in some way has happened to me. And I think the idea in the 16th century, and it's from classical antiquity, that it's of the theater of the world, so that we're acting in a drama and we're watching the drama all around us all the time. And I think that's even why these ridiculous characters can touch us, because they're us in some way, but I will still be
What's
crying.
interesting too is the Commedia dell'arte needs the public. Because in rehearsal, of course, you know, you're laughing and you're laughing at the same jokes probably all the time, but it's kind of playing with the public. They will be laughing, oh, okay, I will go further, or oh, this doesn't work, let's go somewhere else. So there's kind of really an exchange with the public. And that's what, so the character comes to life because of you too. It's very how to say that, it's scary. Because there's always one part of improvisation and don't know what will happen exactly. So it can be scary, at the same time it's thrilling, and it comes alive with this exchange.
In fact, now that you say that, Marie-Nathalie, I'm wondering, it's my impression in the 16th century, the commedia was very often, I mean, people knew what to do with their character, and there were some scenarios, but was it also mainly improvised, do you think?
I mean, they would say, okay, let's do this skit of Arlecchino going to the doctor, and they knew what to do. But then, how this would be built, going there, anything could happen. And they would sometimes stop if sometimes something happened and it works and the public is laughing. They would call it a lazzi. So they would start on a simple thing and they would just improvise on this. So the action would stop for a moment. The action of going to the doctor would stop for this to happen. Arlequin eating a fly, that could take like a 5 minute. Something like that, and then finally it finished, and then he goes. So they would, that's what they call lazzi. So that's what I do. I do two pantalone lazzi. It's a bit that I have a scenario, and then we'll see how it goes.
I'm just thinking about it, I'm laughing again.
Of course, at the period in the fair, outside people were standing, they were, shouting, and they were eating, and there was, all kinds of things happening. So a lot of things you could catch something from there. And of course, now you'll be sitting and listening, and hopefully laughing. But you can be active as well. It really helps.
Oh yes, I think on stage we will be laughing, and you should feel free when something is funny just to express that, because you can't help it. A musical piece that we're using this evening, working extremely closely with the Commedia dell'arte and our three wonderful colleagues, is Orazio Vecchi, a northern Italian composer. He was born in 1550 and then lived into the early 17th century. He wrote a Madrigal Comedy, so that can be all kinds of collections of polyphonic music for several voices. And in this case, this one piece we're using a few times tonight, L'Anfiparnasso, which means the twin peaks of music and theater working together to amuse and delight you all. It has dialogue of commedia scenes with the commedia characters, and so we're going to, 3 times tonight, we're going to sing a madrigal that tells this commedia dialogue, and they're going to act it out. And you're going to have surtitles. So in the here and now, that's going to be about the closest we could have to that direct experience people had in the past. They spoke Italian, so that was easy for them. They knew commedia, so when they saw someone with a certain mask walk out, they would already know what that person represented. So hopefully because we can bring all those, hopefully because we can bring those things together, you'll get that direct experience of what's happening. And it's really amazing that he wrote this piece. I don't know where the texts come from for the Commedia scenes. I don't know if Vecchi wrote them himself.
No, I don't think Vecchi wrote, but let me think. I don't remember. I should look at my notes. But yes, it's challenging as well, because now, you know, Commedia dell'arte has a free of doing Commedia and taking your time, but then, oops, you are doing it on music. So we really needed to pace ourselves on the music and do it on time. So I think our dancing background did help a little bit to be able to get this connection and this moving, and sometimes I put a little dance in it to act on what the words, there's a lot of words going on, so.
And speaking of the dance element, because we're all so lucky, not only will we have this excellent Commedia acting and the masks tonight, but Marie-Nathalie and her wonderful colleagues are also beautiful dancers. And I'm wondering, Marie-Nathalie, if you can just tell us a bit about how much we can know about the choreography from the 16th century and what you're presenting to us tonight.
Yeah, 14th, 15th century, we start to have manuals where they describe the dance, how to dance, and they describe dancing. They describe with words in Italian, and you have the music at the end. So you have first part, and then they describe how you do 2 spezzati, 1 seguido, ordinario, 1 passo puntato. So it's all described. And then second part. Then you have to match it to the music that is at the end. And sometimes, okay, what's the first part? What's the second part? It's not always clear. Especially in one dance that we'll do at the end of the program. It's a beautiful dance called Celestigiglio. And the Gaillard, you will dance Pavan, Saltarello, and the Gaillard is very, very difficult. And it's not normal Gaillard step that you would see. Each beat, he does something different. So you have the description of all the steps you need to do, and you need to figure out that it will do 6 beats. In 6 beats, I have to do all those steps. So there's different solutions. Different dancers would sometimes in the reconstruction would do it slightly different. They would do the step, but time-wise, they would do a little different. So that's what is sometimes intricate in when we reconstruct the Renaissance dancing from Negri, from Caroso, Santucci, is the connection with the dance. How come he repeats this sequence, but then we finish the step? Anyway, there's a little work to do that, where later in the Baroque it's a little bit clearer because of the notation, the dance notation, the signs. But it's quite, it's quite precise. They tell you the steps and how to do it. So it's, yeah.
It's so rare we get to see any kind of historical dance, unfortunately. And so to have this, I also have to say, as one of the musicians, we often know that we're playing dance music in early music concerts. And then it's so inspiring to get together with dancers. Then that tells us more and more about the music. When you can see people's bodies moving and doing those steps. And then we learn what, I'm so sorry, I'm not used to the microphone. I keep taking it away. I'm running away from it. Then we learn what is the right tempo. Then we learn, what steps do they have to fit in while we're playing a certain number of bars. So we all learn from each other. And of course, this is information at the time that everybody had, because I imagine everybody in society danced.
They are dancing masters, and they were traveling in all the courts, and they were learning, and they were going to court to dance. And it's a time when you were at court that you can flirt in public. That's almost the only time you could, on the dance floor. And yes, it was important for people to know to dance, to present themselves at court a little bit later, like with Louis XIV, but even at that period. And they talk about the exercise as well. That's a good exercise. It is. When you dance a gaillard, it's a good exercise as well. And you're talking about the costumes as well. We really need to get, particularly for the women, you will see the costume a little bit more at the end of the program. And it's challenging to dance with those amazing big dress and all the footwork you're going to see, because here the stage is high and you're lower, so it's great. But we complain a little bit because we rehearse all those step, and then we put the dress and you see only the guys to the step. So I've kind of, but you're going to see it. So I decided at the beginning of the program that we're not going to put the period costume right at the beginning, so that we could see a little bit of how the body is going. And then because we do comédien, we have to change, and we decided to put more at the end. So you'll see the difference as well, what's happening with the dressing, how we need to adjust for the dancing.
And I suppose, I know the one time in my early music life that I wore a real costume from the 16th century, and I mean, I know dancers, musicians were all slouching like this, and you carry your body so beautifully, but I really noticed, I learned so many things from those clothes that I had no choice but to sit up, and then how I was going to play my instrument, also this French hood thing, like in the portrait of Anne Boleyn, then I couldn't hear as well. And so you learn so much from the clothes.
Yes, and the two dresses that you're going to see tonight, my mother made them. So she made my costume for many years, and so the one that Stephanie will be wearing is brand new. So you'll be the first to see this costume. And of course they were boned inside. They would put bones inside from the whales. Of course we don't do that anymore. So this time I decide for the front here, because even the bones now, we have problems to buy the bones. The metal bones, they're difficult, and they actually metal, bend. So at one point, they bend. So I decided in front, I said, why we don't put, when you buy paintings, you have to, the wood stick for the painting. So that's what we have here, Sico. You won't see it, but under it's written Sico, and it's in the dress in front. Well, wood don't bend, so
that's very affordable, because I'm sure the beautiful, beautiful fabric was more expensive than the stick.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Of course, the fabric, they had silk that was hand embroidered and with pearls. And so these days it's a little bit more difficult to find silk, yes, but the hand. So sometimes you try to find a fabric that has a certain pattern on it, but then it's for a sofa. So then it's very heavy. So we need to find a balance between silk and sofa fabric.
I have to say, even though we can't see your feet when you wear the beautiful dress, the effect, then we get something else. The women look like they're floating. I can see why things developed that way.
And there's a step, and I think I will show it, because it's a step, it looks silly a little bit when we don't have the dress, but we do it at the beginning and we're not dressed. So it's for traveling, and so it looks, but with the dress, it really has another effect. So you will see us doing this, and it is a period.
Now I understand. Well, we're almost out of time, but I just wonder if we could take maybe 2 or 3 questions. If you have any questions, yes.
So it is indicated that this particular form lasted until roughly 1630. what happened? Did it get absorbed by opera? Did it simply fall back to a folk tradition? Were they banned in Boston?
You're talking about the Madrigal Comedy. Yeah. So I was mentioning in the program notes that this genre called Madrigal Comedy, where these entertaining pieces were sort of put together, sometimes with a bit of a narrative and sometimes with no narrative at all. It was quite loose. That genre really only lasted for 30 or 35 years. And I think people were experimenting with how to make text and music come alive at that time. And the other thing that was cooking at the exact same time is opera. So any of you who were here last year when we did Monteverdi's Orfeo, that's sort of the serious side of things. And I think that was using a new style, the style of recitative and the sort of the power of solo singing. And for some reason that really took off, whereas Madrigal Comedy is a little bit more looking to the past.
Yes, and as you know, one character, it's 5 voices that sing one character at the same time. So it's that's maybe a part of that as well, the transition, where now you have one person expressing what the person is singing.
Absolutely. So it's hard to say exactly why it didn't last, but I think partly because opera was in a way more groundbreaking and people got excited, and in a way that defined Baroque music, the idea of a solo singer and the bass line with chords. And really with pop music and all kinds of music, we're still in the Baroque era. So there was something about that we like. We still like our bass line and harmony in our songs. I mean, we're lucky we have some of these amazing madrigals. Just because some of them are really silly and sometimes very raunchy, it doesn't mean they're not extremely well written. Orazio Vecchi, whom we're featuring tonight, he's so good. Every time we rehearse again, I just think, oh my goodness, he's so skilled. So just because it's silly doesn't mean it's not high quality. But it's true that for some reason the genre just didn't continue. I think we have just time for one more question. If anybody has a question. Who's going to win?
Was the dance itself improvised at all?
No, they would improvise in the Gaillard, I think, the steps. They could improvise variations in the Gaillard, but it was well established, well measured. Maybe Canario as well, where the Canario you stamp the feet, so then you can improvise variation, and we even do that ourselves. Same thing with the Gaillard. Sometimes I change the step if depending on how I feel, but the rest.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to have you here, and I know you will enjoy. Just know on stage too, those of us in the Toronto Consort, we are just feeling so lucky to get to bring dance, theater, and the music together in one place. It's a very, very rare chance, and we've just had a wonderful time working together. So I hope you enjoy it, and thank you so much.
Thank you.